Mesdames et messieurs, the cast and crew of Rumours. All right. I'm going to start by introducing everyone at this table. We're going to go to the end of the table with Rolando Ravello, Charles Dance, Roy Dupuis, Nikki Amuka-Bird. And then we come back here with Denis Ménochet, Kate Blanchett, and the directors, Evan Johnson, Galen Johnson, and Guy Maddin. All right, guys, before I open the floor to questioning, I just got some news, and you probably know that the next G7 is going to be in Italy on June 14. I just heard that they want to premiere the movie there. And Kate, they ask you to introduce the movie. So what would be the speech?
Oh, man.
Well, that was our
speech.
that was our dream, was to screen the film for the G7. I'm not joking, but I don't think anyone ever put a lot of effort into getting it in front of them. But if you could,
If I can, okay, I'll see what I can do.
you know people.
I know people who know people.
But this news is fantastic. I'm moved profoundly.
It's totally untrue, but
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. We deserved it.
You do. Who had this crazy idea of a zombie apocalypse in a G7?
It kind of happened spontaneously. We'd been writing a few other scripts that didn't quite, that were crammed with enough stupid ideas for 20 movies, and we kept throwing them out. But the G7 idea was in there somehow, and it kept on crumpling itself and crawling out of the wastebasket, and insisting on being made as a film. So, and we always loved the idea of the G7. I don't know them from up close. We know them from the same way you do, just from the evening news, seeing them from afar, not hearing what anyone says, just watching world leaders and their spouses greet each other. Regardless of ideology, they're just as friendly with each other, even though one might eventually declare war against another and commit atrocities. They're all just as genial as at the after party last night, and it just struck us as such a strange disconnect with what really is going on in the world. It just seemed like a perfect blank canvas. Their minds are blank canvases for all sorts of mischief.
Evan Galen, you want to add something?
Yeah, I would just say that we also, we began from a place of, this is not a good place to begin writing a script, but we began from a place of kind of contempt for the characters, which, again, not a good idea, but we began to identify with them as sort of fools trying to write something, trying to understand the world and write something important about the world. That's what we were doing while writing our script. We were like, the world is full of problems. Let's try to solve them with our script. And then we get distracted and we have difficulty. So we realized quickly writing that we understood these people quite deeply and intimately. And so then you can go more interesting places. Obviously, you don't hate your characters.
No, you end up liking them.
You end up loving them. But you shouldn't, because they're probably they all deserve to be in jail for war crimes or something.
A question for all the actors. Is it true that after doing this movie, you all want to leave the world of cinema and start a political career?
Yeah, we wrote a manifesto.
Yeah. You did? Yeah. Which chapter are you on?
Yeah.
Is it easy to, not make fun, but to be funny with political characters? Is it easier?
Well, I mean, if any of you have seen any footage which after seeing videos of Guy's dog, he sent me some footage of the G7 in that order. If you look at that footage, it is really strange. They're really disconnected from their bodies. If you've seen them public speaking, there's a series of received gestures that really don't resemble anything vaguely natural. And they do, photographic listening, like it's a whole lot, it's performative. And so it was, the situation itself that we place our leaders in is absurd. And so that was a great starting place for me to look at that footage, because at times, as strange as this movie is, it feels like it's documentary-esque, it's how real it is.
That's right. It's somehow less than real and more than real, or something. That was the goal.
I love that idea as well. When I first spoke to you, Guy, you said, you're taking people who would normally be dealing with a political crisis, economic crisis, something, and they're dealing with a very real crisis of like a human crisis. How do I get through this night alive, And the situations become more and more absurd. And so the more you lean into that with as much truth as possible, I think hopefully the comedy takes care of itself as well.
Gentlemen, at the end of the table, you want to add something about that? About the comedy in the political part?
What was that?
Do you want to add something about how easy or difficult it is to be funny with a political character?
To be playing a political character.
Be funny with.
To be studying?
Funny.
There it is.
To be funny with. Oh, I think it's relatively easy. I mean, especially in England, I spend my time laughing at what I see coming from our government, and
Comedians have been doing it for a while.
Yeah. I guess you just play it as straight as possible, and it's hilarious. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Et Denis, une question pour vous. On est en France, donc je vais la demander en français.
Denis,
Quel est
a
le président
question for
français qui
you.
vous a le plus inspiré pour votre rôle?
Which president in France inspired you most for your role?
The question is which French president has most inspired Denis for his part?
Oh.
I know the answer to this. I won't say it. There's one you like. I know that.
The one, yeah. No. Je me suis plus inspiré de Ubu Roy.
I drew more inspiration from Ubu Roy than anybody else.
Mais j'aime beaucoup François Hollande.
But I like François Hollande a lot.
Voilà.
Ça suffit. All right, so we're going to start with Marcus.
Yes, my name is Marcus. I'm from One Press TV from Sweden. I want to ask Kate Blanchett a question. How did you get introduced to this movie, and what motivated you to be part of this movie?
Well, I mean, I'm an enormous admirer of Guy's work and the work that the Johnson brothers have done with Guy. The Green Fog, I absolutely adore, and Winnipeg is one of my all-time favorite films. And there always seem to be adventures in cinema making, and they make narratives out of things that shouldn't have narratives, and things eviscerate themselves, but I always sort of end up giggling and gasping and being slightly horrified and offended by the work. So as soon as I knew that the Guy had heard of me, of course I wanted to get on the phone, and I'd already made a decision. It's a little bit like a first date. You kind of know whether you're going to creatively sleep together or not, and before you just do. And but we had the conversation as a kind of a yeah. And then I read the script, and what I loved about it was that it felt like it was even a departure for them. And so I think it's really exciting when the directors that you're working with, and I've never been directed by a threesome, so that was, it was fascinating. Yeah, what was going on off screen.
It's about that time to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Threesome.
But it felt like, as a directing triumvirate, they were going in a new, fresh direction, so that we'd all have a chance to depart somewhere collectively. I'm getting too metaphorical for my own good, but yes, that's how it happened, and here I am.
I got a question.
Sorry.
Hello, my question is to Kate. I'm from Georgia. I'm Golden Globe international voter and journalist from Georgia.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. My question is about, first of all, the script, because we see that the President of United States is totally in the film he sleeps, and Europe is on fire. How do you think this is kidding, or this is like confession to today's reality? Because we are in this situation in reality also, yeah.
I think one feels most mad in the present day when you try and make sense of what is happening, because it is completely bewildering and absurd, the situations we as a species have found ourselves in, but have willingly put ourselves in or been put in. And so I think if you try and make too much sense of this movie, you will feel like you're losing your mind.
Yeah, so I know no one asked me a question, but we're some of we were those two specific elements you mentioned are kind of goading viewers to think, oh, this is a symbol or metaphor for something important, or but a lot of that we do attempt to do a lot of tricking people into falling for that trap, and then maybe undermining it later on. That's just something we like to do, for better or worse.
I mean, the statement that the G7 come up with, and that's copy and pasted together, the director's statement that these guys made is as absurd as the G7's summit statement. So, yeah.
And that worked. Yeah.
But, you know, there of course those textures are there. You know, not to be glib, but it's not. You know, it's not trying to be an important film with a message. You know, it's definitely. Not that? Am I putting words into... Oh.
No. It isn't? We thought it was.
Yeah, no, not
It's okay to fail.
Not an important film.
Important?
No, but I did
Utterly
my little
unimportant.
thing. My buddy.
That's not important.
No, it's not important. It's not.
What she said, yeah.
What I think is really funny as well is that there's no sense of legacy. Like they're supposed to write something and they have no clue about legacy, which is the main idea, really, no? I think that's very funny. That's my sense of humor.
And it was a pure pleasure to watch Roy cutting and pasting all these
C'était un
different
pur plaisir
notes that
de
had come out of
regarder
some sort of
Roy
collective
qui
delirium these people found
réunissait
themselves in.
toutes ces
And that's the
notes.
way we wrote the script. We kind of went into a flow state, and we had these boundaries which we never defined for ourselves, but there was some cutting and pasting of things because it delights us no end to see how many different tones we can force into a coexistence on the screen, and as unlikely as they are, a combination of horror movie and soap opera. Admittedly, that's been done, but a G7 summit thing and a political, I don't know if it's not really a satire, but it's, I don't know, it's just all these different tones that keep shifting, sometimes quickly, sometimes imperceptibly, and it's, I don't know, it's just a real pleasure to get all those different tones in conversation with each other, and it's like improvising while cooking or something like that. And,
Which is a bad idea a lot of the
yeah,
time.
we're all terrible cooks.
All right, we got a question right here.
Yeah, Philip Winter for Latin America. I have a question for Kate. Since the movie is a comedy called Rumours, first, what makes you laugh? And then, what kind of rumor did it start with you that made you laugh the most?
Sorry, what was the
What
second
kind of
part?
rumors started with you and made you laugh the most?
Well, you make me laugh.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you make me laugh. What makes me laugh? Leaf blowers make me laugh.
This again.
Leaf blowers. Don't get me started. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, just Google Kate Blanchett
my
and
God.
leaf blowers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, make me laugh and cry. Laughing and crying is a really good state to be in, actually. And rumours that have started with me. Actually, I did confirm something with Galen last night. I said, which is really weird that it never came up in rehearsal, is why the hell is this movie called Rumours? And my husband had said, is that after the Fleetwood Mac album? He's convinced it's called out. And you said, yes, it was.
Yeah, it was on a list of 10 best album names, and Rumours was on there, and we liked that name. And Rumours, the album, was famously creatively fraught, and everyone was sleeping with each other, so it made sense to us.
Seemed appropriate.
Yeah. No one questioned it. We thought people, producers and financiers, would be like, why Rumours? Why Rumours? But no one ever questioned it, so it just made the title.
It's because it's a good title, and a good title is a good title. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters.
We got a question on the side here.
Bonjour, je viens du Québec, du Canada.
I come from Quebec, from Canada, and I'd like to put a question to Roy Dupuis. You're the Prime Minister of Canada. Did you draw inspiration from someone for this character? How did you prepare for the character? And what were the dynamics between all you on the set?
Guy, Evan
and Galen showed us a lot of archival material of G7. I watched the Prime Minister several times over. Personally speaking, I like Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who's quite a star for me. He has a great deal of charisma. That's probably the reason why Canada was part of the G7. I watched a lot of archival material. In terms of lines, I didn't have that many. It's mainly the protocol photo session, the gestures, the body language. But things take off quite quickly because we are in one of Guy Maddin's film and the action goes fast. I was a representative of humanity. We all have our character in the film, and my character is someone who loves women. He's a bit of a teenager, in fact. And the relationship between us, well, everything was perfect. Everyone was in the right place, and it was a lovely experience.
We have a question at the back of the room over there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Petra Usinova from European Parliament. I have a question first for Monsieur Menochet and Monsieur Ravello. If you are going to vote during the upcoming European elections in June this year, and also a question for Madame Blanchet. You have been to European Parliament last year. You met our President Roberta Metsola also. Like, if you would have a message for all the European citizens, why they should vote, why it's important to vote in the European elections. Thank you very much.
Okay, first part, c'est Denis and Rolando.
Rolando?
Rolando?
The election in Italy. I want a prime minister like Kate Blanchett. I'm serious. I'm serious. Unfortunately, it's not possible. It's not possible. We have another one. Another one.
But why?
Eh?
But why?
I don't know. I don't know. We have another blonde one. See. That is not mine. I don't vote for that girl. I hope that in Italy we can switch in another way. But for me, and now I'm serious, the two words of this period are humanity and empathy. I need humanity and empathy from everyone. So if a prime minister from the right side or the left side, I don't want to know. But I want only humanity and empathy. Yeah, stop. Okay.
Denis, are you going to vote at the European election in a few weeks?
I don't discuss politics. I'm an actor, so I do satire. This movie is a satire, so people can humanize leaders and have fun, make fun of them, and then make good decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so what was the third part of the question?
Do you have a message for the people to, no, who you vote for, but to push people to vote at the European election in a few weeks?
It's interesting. I mean, I'm Australian, and I mean, we're a small democracy, large landmass, but a small population. But it's a country where voting is compulsory. So I always have seen it as a kind of that one has to participate in order to make democracy healthy. So I when people say they're not going to vote, I sort of, I've grown up thinking the opposite, that it's really important to participate. But, you know, like I argue with my sons and they say, when the system's so broken, why would you participate in a broken system? But if you're saying the system is broken, then we have to do something to fix it. And that's what I find really lovely about this film, which is not political, remotely political. But it does talk, these people who are so lost and can make no decision at all, you know, that they keep talking about, philosophizing about all of the things that need changing, the sundials we need to build, and et cetera, but no action comes out of it, you know. And, you know, if the French president loses his, you know, the use of his legs, you know, but anyway, that doesn't answer your question. Yes, I think voting is important.
They can write speeches.
I can write speeches?
No, I mean the characters in the films, they can write speeches. That's something.
No, well, yes, yeah, lots of speeches, not a lot of action.
All right, Chaz.
Hello, my name is Chaz Ebert from the United States. I wanted to, you say the film is not, I know it's satirical, not remotely political, you say, except, Guy, in your mind, I want to know why the American president was speaking like an old English colonial, and also why the sexy, romantic Canadian was seemingly saying all the right things, yet you gave lines that he really wasn't in favor of strong women, and when he was saying all the right things about finding, you know, when the bog creature came up, he seduced them with his speech, but then he was the one who threw the stick. There must be some political undertones under there for those two things.
Well, thanks for that question, Chaz. Was it for me, that question? Yeah, hi, nice to see you. Well, the idea of having the American president speak with an inexplicable British accent was one of the first ideas we had in the writer's room, and it's the one that never went away. It was just something we didn't even discuss among ourselves. It just felt right, and it was one irreducible fact that was our best idea. and so we went around, when we started to think about who could play this role, we wanted someone who could be the most presidential and yet the most British actor possible, and that's Charles Dance, who's more presidential than Charles Dance. There he is, look at him. And then, but who's more British? And so there he is. So he is the incarnation of this idea, this, I guess, surrealist idea that would be, for me, we never talked about it, the creators on either side of me, but for me it was almost, I rationalized it. I perhaps shouldn't say this, but it was almost like a what if the Revolutionary War went the other way or something like that. Just that it was just stayed a colony almost. That was what I liked to think about, but I just thought it would be out there for people to try to figure out, to think politically, or it was just there as bait.
Or what if America became so conservative that they became a colony again?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, every time Charles would ask us, why am I speaking with a British accent, we give him a different answer.
His head was spinning.
That's the first time you've given me a cogent answer.
Yeah, well, we sort of had to now. And I don't know, as far as giving our Canadian Prime Minister, as played so sexily by Roy Dupuis, we felt, you know, all the leaders, especially I guess in Australia and in Canada for sure, there's all these apologies to Aboriginal First Nations groups that are meant, often they're virtue signaling at worst, and I guess and a bunch of other things. But it's just the idea of just saying just enough to get away from them seemed about right. Probably over-explaining that.
No, I think it's something worth explaining, that one.
Yeah.
Because we don't want that misinterpreted.
Or to hurt anybody.
Canadian politicians do disingenuous apologies frequently, and that just seemed like a great dramatization of what they often will do. You know, apologizing for large things, apologizing for genocide and, you know, huge colonial crimes, and then saying, okay, well, apology done, bye.
Yeah, and it's the government figures that call it the truth and reconciliation. It's not necessarily named. It's not a name that's been agreed upon by everybody. As if, okay, I'm calling it, you know, it's like in a marital spat where you say, well, I apologized already. Now settle down. You know, like quit being so angry. And so it seemed like it was our chance to show how politicians talk. So it's political, but it's not sitting anywhere on the spectrum. You know, it's none of the ideologies of the seven leaders are revealed in the movie, nor do they come up in discussions. I actually found that once I was the guest at some sort of gang interview involving American and Canadian politicians and some artists once, somewhere in New York. Keith Morrison was interviewing all of us, governors, senators, members of the Canadian Parliament, and a couple filmmakers. And then we all went out for dinner afterwards, and regardless of where we sat politically, everyone was just teasing each other. There was some guy from our far right-wing Reform Party who had funded his campaign by selling his semen. And people were just teasing him about that, and he was a little bit abashed, but then came back with a quip but it wasn't that going for the juggler that you see in partisan politics on television, you know. So I don't know how much you can get for your semen anyway, but a pretty flimsy, pretty flimsy campaign.
Here we go.
What happened? We financed this film in part.
So, you know, if anyone wants to ask any questions about, you know, funding streams for Guy's films, we got a lot of ideas. You know,
Called funding streams for a reason.
All right, next question, good luck.
Hi, I'm here. My name is Hossam Fahmy, film critic from Egypt.
Great to meet you.
Two parts of the question. The first part to Mr. Charles Dance. So to be able to do a political satire, you need to be free to express your opinion without being afraid of being cancelled or go to jail because you criticize your president or anything. Why you decided to be also politically open about your opinion, publicly open about your opinion about what's happening in the Middle East now? And to Guy and Evan, do you think one day you can do a political satire about what's happening now with like a very sensitive situation and everybody is very nervous about it and just like don't say anything? So do you think you will be able one day to do such thing?
Was that a question for me?
Guy and Evan, I think you both.
Or anyone?
Guy and Evan.
Do you want to go first, or should we go first? What do you want?
There you go.
Okay, I'll go first. We made a film once about a Canadian war movie shot in the Middle East. It was about the war in Afghanistan, and it was we were the making of documentary for that film. It's called "Bring Me the Head of Tim Horton." That's about as close as we get to direct. Like, I just think our specialty is more in the critique of, like, we were critiquing a film that was being made about the war. We were very political in it because we felt that the film wasn't sufficiently anti-war. It was too in throes to NATO imperialism, that kind of thing. And that's the type of politics I think we're most comfortable with. I'm not, you know, and we're not cowards or anything, but we also don't feel necessarily like our interventions will be that helpful unless we're comfortable or we feel like we're articulating something well. We don't want to put people off our message or our politics. Is that a fair assessment of that film and our
I would
commitments?
say so, that there were sort of indirect things in it that people could draw. We spoke directly. It was a bit of an essay film as well as a behind-the-scenes look. And we talked about how in cinema, death is never adequately, gravely represented, that there's almost too much thrill in the tragedy in fictional cinema, and that, like I can only paraphrase Wim Wenders, but when he said if you're showing it, you're sort of for it, you know, and it's a grotesque paraphrase, sorry, but it's So we were showing what another filmmaker was showing, but we were showing it at a distance and with my voiceover intervening even more. I guess the short answer is maybe not, but it it doesn't mean I'm heartless or anything like that. I like to think. I'm being a bit careful right now, obviously. Sorry. I'll be mad at myself after, I know.
Well, I mean, we would do it if we felt creatively compelled, like if it was, because we're willing to walk up to certain lines and risk, we're willing to risk I guess we're willing to risk upsetting people we don't want to upset, in our work. I hope we haven't, I guess I say I hope we haven't done it, but sometimes I don't care if we upset people because I know that our hearts are in the right place or something, some nonsense like that. I don't know, we might one day. Depends how, if we feel like we can intervene in some productive way.
That's a great question. I'm sorry to be personally inadequate in my response, but I may come back to you in a minute.
In the meantime, we have a question right here.
Hola, buenas tardes. Felipe Flores from Apuntes de Cine in Mexico. Congratulations for the big movie. My question is for Mr. Denis Minochet. Wow, it's an exciting actuation. But ever remember his role performance in Asbestas? With the current crisis of resources, all these types of crisis is possibility in the actually like a movie in your acting?
Excuse me, what was that?
So, remember your performance in Asbestas?
I do. I died.
These types of situations, it's a very good movie, I love it.
Yeah.
But these situations in this movie, it's possibility to dangerous, to violence of the population, not political, of the population totally, or not?
I think it's very far apart, those two stories, But I don't understand your question. Yes.
Vous êtes servi de l'un pour l'autre.
No, it's only the brilliant script that Evan wrote with those guys was just an amazing gift, that you can work off from and then create this crazy character. And you had to be in a wheelbarrow covered in mud, which was very interesting as well as an actor. I never did that before. And I didn't die. Voilà. Muchas gracias. Sorry.
We got a question just next to her.
Hello, yes. I'm Anna from Spoiler Time in Mexico. First of all, congratulations on your movie. We have an upcoming election in Mexico. I'd rather laugh than cry about it. So my question is for Ms. Blanchett, but really for the whole incredible cast and crew. I think there's this misconception that a lot of people have that comedy is not to be taken seriously, and that it's really not the best vehicle to talk about important issues, such as the ones that you actually really do raise with this film. So I would like to ask you, why do you think this is, and do you think that you can do something about it for it to be taken more seriously? Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think that stories are there as an active, like a safety valve sometimes, like to release a bit of pressure. And to your question, the journalist from Egypt, like in a way, this is not regional. This is a self-appointed G7 dealing with a global crisis, so it's something that is collectively affecting them all. And there's something absurd about those people from a select group of countries deciding the fate of the world. I mean, the absurdity of the situation that we're in is, I mean, it's very hard not to laugh. I mean, because and in a way, if you try and deal with these things too directly, you can't switch off because the catastrophic nature of the situation, the confluence of AI, the challenges with what we've done with anthropogenic climate change and the systemic inequality and fiscally and socially, it's a big, tangled, globby mess. And so you disconnect and you feel disempowered. And in a way, if you laugh together, and it was really interesting last night just to finally see it with an audience and to see, some people reading, reading it in 2 different languages, some people hearing it, and to what people were laughing at. And it wasn't always where I was expecting them to. And if people see the film in 5-10 years' time, they might be laughing at different things. Or regionally, people might laugh at different things, And I think that's always really interesting for me in a story. Sometimes you can't deal with things too directly. And so it's the conversation afterwards, I think that is the most important thing, Not that this was made for it's not a piece of propaganda or anything, That would be funny.
Yeah, I don't think we have the skill to make that kind of the kind of propaganda, like we have political.
Or the budget.
Or the budget. We just don't have we have political feelings. They come out a little bit in the movie, obviously, here and there, but they're not, I don't think we would articulate them well enough to convince anybody of them. So that's why I think we're a little nervous about
No,
this.
good propaganda is really nefarious and almost invisible to most people.
And amazing. And,
yeah.
And very well resourced, unlike filmmakers.
Very well funded, yeah.
We got a question right here.
Hello, this is Yeşim Burul from Turkey. Thank you so much for the film. We all very much enjoyed it last night. I have never watched a film that received so many laughs at Cannes before, really, in the whole room.
Oh,
and as coming from a country outside of the G7 countries, and we really feel deeply how their decisions inform our lives and make an impact on our lives. So we thought about like those woke people are sort of also representing us because, coming out of the darkness and trying to influence and sometimes mislabeled as protesters. So I was wondering during the shooting of the film, because as we were watching, it felt like you had so much fun filming this movie. I wonder how it felt for you in the set, and as for the cast, what kind of resources you tapped into creating those characters? Because everyone felt so real and unreal at the same time. They were like cut-out characters, but at the same time, all these bodily figures and behaviors, they were so, perfect, something we really knew from the press. So I was wondering, with regard to the cast, how you created your own characters. Thank you.
So is that a question for the cast, various cast, if anyone feels like addressing that?
First part is, how fun was it to make the film?
It was surreal as well. We did weeks of night shoots. We were kind of sleep deprived and in the middle of a forest in Hungary, and the dark was pretty scary. So we were really reliant on each other. It was like being away at summer camp, and it's such an ensemble piece. So we really rely on kind of playing together, and our directors were very kind of open. I'm quite an analytical performer, and I kind of like to know the answers to everything. And it was kind of more about letting go and exploring and making big decisions and seeing how they worked and really kind of bouncing off each other. It was a lot of fun.
And second part is, what kind of resources did you have to tap into to create the characters?
The global crisis.
Exactly. The crisis.
You mean as
World around us.
politician?
The script. The characters were really well drawn. And, oftentimes you read a script and people speak within the same rhythm, and their lines are interchangeable. But it was so beautifully constructed that the characters they were so vibrant there from the first reading. And then when the cast came together, it was just kind of delicious.
I had to learn how to be carried. And that was an acting technique that Kate taught me called and it worked really well. Thank you.
And I did a lot of muscle
carry,
training.
Right? Metaphorically speaking, yeah.
Thank you again.
Yeah, I didn't carry you. There was someone else, but yeah.
And Roy, you had to do spinal exercises or something?
Yeah, I did a lot of gym work to be able to carry.
Yeah.
Before we conclude, I heard about rumors of a Rumours franchise. Is it true?
Yeah, we have a sequel called Tumors coming out. That was Galen's. Galen made that joke a few months ago, and I took it and got the
Always
big laugh.
stealing my material.
Yeah, the franchise, we want drive-thrus.
Mesdames et messieurs, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you.